in the next panel, we would like to reflect a little bit on the reality already. The difference between the panel today and the difference between the panel tomorrow will be that today we would like to see the municipalities from outside. And we invited some experts, some people, some functionaries as well, and some young people who could share their expectations and how they see the challenges regarding municipalities involving young people in decision making. So I would like to welcome and invite Ms. Simona Blosenco. First of all, a young leader, a young representative from Portimao. Then I would like to invite Ms. Gordana BERJAN, the director of European Youth Center Budapest of the Council of Europe, who is working hard on involving and engaging young people in different activities of the Council of Europe. I would also like to invite Ms. Cristiana Xenofontos from the European Youth Forum. She is one of the board members of the European Youth Forum. I would also like to invite Mr. Jonas Agdur, the chairman of the Intercity Youth. And of course, I would like to invite Ms. Laurence Hemand to join us in this panel. Before I would put the first question to you, to the panelists, I would like also to ask you a question. In your life so far, in your professional life, or in your youth, you are all young people, so actually you are in your youth. Did you have any good experience when you were listened to? Do you have good examples in your life that you can refer to when we work with young people? Maybe it's not so many, probably. But let me ask you as well, first of all, as a kind of introduction, a brief introduction, why is it important for you? Why, in your work, most probably it's important because you are working in youth policy and with young people, so it's not a question whether it is important for you or not, but personally, why is it important for you to work with young people and to engage them and to try to give them a voice? Maybe we can start with the young person, the youngest person, let's say.
Hello. Sorry about my voice, I've been a little sick, but thank you for inviting me. I'm Simona, I'm 18, I'm here from Portimao. I feel really empowered by being surrounded by all of you today, agents in changing on youth participation, and I feel really empowered to have this conference here in Portimao, in my city, and I hope you can all enjoy the city a bit. So, I'm a strong believer that the society moves forward because of youth participation. And one thing that really concerns me is also when organizations, municipalities, stuff like that, use us, youngsters, as some decoration. So, yes, so like projects like this conference are really privileged to me. It is really privileged to me to be here because we are not in a time where the mentality is that the decision-making in politics, it's something that is really far from us. It is not something that only a really specific group of people do. It is something that we can all take part in, and I'm an example of it, and this is an example of it. This is an example of democracy. So I really feel empowered by being here. I feel privileged, and I feel really happy, and it is really important to me that youth participation is taken more and more truly and is being more normalized in our days. So thank you.
Thank you very much. Gordana, why is it important for you?
Good morning, everyone. It's okay now? Yes. Well, I think, thank you, Dan, so much for the presentation. I think Dan pointed out many urgencies, and my head is spinning now. I have like 20 questions for Dan now, but why this and why that? And and I have some objections, but I think Dan did a great job in pointing out why this is very important. But just to say that I'm also very happy to be here. I was young once upon a time, many years ago, but the reason why I'm here and why I'm so happy is also I work for the Council of Europe. So I know this is more an EU focus, but we also work with 47 countries in Europe on youth participation. And youth participation inside the Council of Europe in the youth sector where I work, it's the foundation for all our work we do in the youth sector. So 50 years ago when we started, the participation and the spaces for young people to have their voices heard was of essence, and that's why we started our work. So it's very much based on rights, the rights of young people to participate. So it's not even a thing we should discuss. Young people are citizens like everyone else, Dan said. There are certain things that are specific to young people, but then there are some things that are very general, and we are part of and I say we now, I was young once, but we are part of society. So I think an important starting point is there, and also to see, often when we portray young people, we talk much about problems and difficulties. And the starting point for the Council of Europe is that it's rights-based, and young people are a resource. And if we don't tap into that, we will not invest in our societies today and not for the future. So that's why it's very important.
Thank you, Gordana. Cristiana?
Good morning, everybody. I think the easiest answer is like youth participation, as Dan very well presented, is not Robocop, or it shouldn't be Robocop. But before I answer your question, I would like also to thank the organizers for doing this thing a reality for us to be here, also for the digital friends that they're participating. And my name is Cristiana Xenofontos. I'm a board member of the European Youth Forum, and I'm here representing European Youth Forum, but I'm also here as a Cypriot youth, collaborating with the Cyprus Youth Council. And as a representative of the largest European youth platform also in the world, I think is exactly what you mentioned. Young people is not a burden. Young people is the solution to every struggle, and young people are actually the key to proceed into participation, meaningful participation, and democracy. And I would like also to mention that youth participation is not a luxury. It should have been a necessity also for the democratic processes, and we all have to face it as that.
Thank you. Jonas?
Hey, hello everybody, I say also, and thank you for inviting me. My answer would go like this. I was a teenager in the 70s, a very politically active kind of a period. People were engaged, we were going into the streets for Vietnam and other issues. Then I started as a youth worker in 1980 in suburban Stockholm, and due to Swedish tradition, I was supposed to provide leisure time activities for young people. This was quite a bore, actually. And I wanted to do things that were sort of out of reach of budget, sort of setting the limit a little bit further away than municipalities used to think. So I started to need young people in doing youth work, not doing youth work for young people, but needing young people when doing youth work. And things got so much funnier. Things got so much better. And I think this goes for all of society, and that's why youth participation is essential. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Laurence?
I don't have any in mind, but it's okay. Well, it's a personal question, so it will be a personal answer. And it's quite awful to think that 35 years ago, I've been the vice chair of my National Youth Council. So it's a long, long time ago, but I was really committed, and I've dedicated all my professional life to develop activities project, not for young people, but with young people. And yeah, it's really our reality in our office, and 50% of the 28 members of the office are less than 35 years old. I think it's really important to work with young people.
Thank you very much, Laurence. My next question would be, because we also talk a lot about challenges, the limits. Also, Dan was explaining there are limits of doing this. In your experience, as a young participant or somebody who is organizing youth participation, what are the main difficulties that you faced recently? And we don't have to do a round. If you feel like intervening, please feel free. Simona, you would like to start?
Yes. So, as I said, the thing about youngsters just being a decoration, an ornament, I believe it's today's problem. And I believe that it's not just the responsibility of the people who are organizing, but also to the youngsters to be informed about it. It's a two-pathway. I think it's our responsibility and the other's responsibility. And I think it's one of the biggest today's problems is disinformation, and also how this organization approach the youngsters to participate, because I think like today we live in a very digital area, as we know, and it's all about social networks, social media, but I think that sometimes the marketing and the language, it is very wrong. So that's why they need also youngsters working for them. I think it's really a two-pathway.
Thank you. Who would like to contribute? Gordana?
I don't work at local level. I mean, I am the big gap, I suppose, that was pointed out before. It's a European institution, it's far away from the everyday life, and at the same time we are dealing with issues which affects young people's life on a daily basis. So it's a little bit of a challenge, but I think here in this context, what we see, our organization, our Secretary General, she issues a report on an annual basis, and actually what we have noticed, and especially because we are coming through a pandemic now, is that there is this backsliding when it comes to democracy. And I think one of the big challenges that goes from the very highest to the lowest level is that we cannot take for granted things anymore that was there before, and that we are faced with new challenges. We have freedoms that have been cut in recent years. Because of the pandemic, we have difficulties to gather, to assemble, and young people are very much affected by this. And the worry now for our organization is that this democratic culture which we operate within, that we have taken granted for at least the last 30 years, let's say, but it has been backsliding slowly, we might not recover in a way so that we can fully participate as citizens, as young people, and so on. So this is really a serious issue, and maybe not so much in some of the EU countries that you represent, this issue is not so present. But for example, I work in Central Europe. That's where my work is based. And it's not obvious anymore that, for example, civil society organizations can gather, for example, youth NGOs, to do what they are supposed to do independently and to raise their voices and have their say on policies, on practices, on decision-making processes and so on, because it's cut. Their freedoms are cut. And I think this is a very, very big challenge, and maybe it starts on a national level, but it trickles down. And where I live and work, we notice it. So for us in the Council of Europe, it's extremely important that we try to promote these spaces and the resources and the support for young people, because in some member states, the spaces are shrinking for civil engagement.
Thank you, Gordana. Who would like to? Jonas?
As said, I'm representing Intercity Youth. That is a network of local departments for youth work. So in one way, I'm representing municipalities. When I heard Don Moxon talking, and I was starting to think, I think that when you talk about engaging young people in decision-making processes, I mean, when you're getting engaged in the UK, I suppose you're getting engaged in order to be married. I mean, it asks for two parts. And I would say that the big sort of part in engaging young people is actually engaging municipalities. It is engaging civil servants, the political level, into feeling that this is really important. And I mean, if you are to be engaged, if you are to fall in love, there needs to be a culture where it's sort of open, you know. If you feel that this is a hostile society, you get more distant to falling in love with someone else, you get a bit more cautious. So I think also we have to notice that participating in decision-making processes is built on a general culture of participation. I mean, this conference is focused on this kind of an issue, but it's not separated for other kinds of societal participation from creating a culture where young people are valued in schools. I mean, we are seeing some changes in school compared to when I went to school, but still there's a lot to do, and there's a lot to do in other issues as well. So we have to look at this as a whole concept of participation. Focusing here, of course, that's correct, but there are interdependencies, and the big challenge that we see is not getting young people engaged. It's getting municipalities engaged, actually. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Very good point.
Yes, it's very practical, but sometimes when I'm working with young people in a co-decision process, kind of co-decision process, I'm not always prepared to be so shaken. They shake us, and well, we have to be prepared to build something with something inside adult thinking is not prepared anymore. Young people are full of energies, full of creativity, full of everything, and a lot of things that we don't know anymore. Just one very practical example. A few weeks ago, I was committed in the Council of Europe in a reflexive, in a pilot group on democratic processes, and the young people talked a lot about artificial intelligence and the risks of false democracy in regards of artificial intelligence. And really, I wasn't prepared, and I don't want to know anything about artificial intelligence. I was there to speak about democracy and democratic processes that I know very well. And at the end of the workshop, it was so bright for me. It was like a revelation. I said, yes, it's true, but I had to adapt my mind to this new thing, which is artificial intelligence. And we are to be open and ready to learn things from young people also, and ready to be shaken, really.
Thank you, Laurence. Cristiana?
Yeah, I will refer once again to Don's presentation, because he highlighted very well when it comes to young people are not only part of a consultation or a dialogue process, they need to be present in the whole making policy decision process. And young people are often seen as passive actors or as subjects of policy initiatives rather than creators of innovative ideas that could bring actually benefits to the overall society. So when young people are giving the right space to express themselves, decision makers better perceive the added value of involving young people. I would say that by providing youth the right space to express their voices is the first step. And I would also like to highlight the lack of trust. There is much lack of trust, which is the main obstacle to actually overcome what we want. And what we want is more than the youth involvement at the local level. It's a common involvement, but having also the youth-led processes for young people. And I would like to mention a project that we have as a European Youth Forum, which is called the European Youth Capital. And it's a project that actually brings the local stakeholders together with young people in order to make the cities better, to make the cities be built on the future, but also on the present, who are young people.
Thank you very much, Cristiana. I would like to share with you one of the ideas behind Democracy Reloading. When we were discussing how to name the partnership at the beginning, because we started with a training course which was called Speak and Listen. You remember? Some of you maybe were participants there. It goes very well in line with Dan's presentation, how to listen to and how to speak. But then we decided to give the name Democracy Reloading because youth participation is probably not only about involving them in the decisions that the adults and the decision makers want them to be involved, but maybe it's something else that they want to talk about than what the municipalities, what the governments, what the European institutions want them to validate what they do or to recognize their institutional presence or the status quo that is there. But I think we should also be on the long term open to rethink democracy, where young people could have a lot of ideas probably, which is a very long process, but also in the long term it can be more ambitious, what democracy reloading means. From this perspective, you are from different angles looking at municipalities, European institution, national institution, young people, youth organization, a special network that is supporting municipalities. What expectation do you have regarding youth participation in decision-making towards municipalities? In your experience, what are your expectations in this very complex situation, including the limitations, the realities?
Maybe I start and then we see where the conversation goes. I'm thinking a lot about what Dan said, how do we reach the 80%? And you pointed in one direction saying this digitalized way. And on one hand I thought, yeah, it makes sense, but my whole body was like, no, because I see in the work that we are doing that the absolute and I think you all have had that experiences, and maybe you were in that situation once upon a time when you have this kind of, I can change the world, or this changed my life, I am going to do something different now, because you were so empowered in this encounter with other people. And you were given the tools to express yourself, to believe that you can make a difference and so on. And I'm not sure if the digital world can replace that. It can contribute to that. But I think these safe spaces, these spaces which are thought through, where you provide the support, the pedagogical support, the ideas, the knowledge, you give the skills, I have difficulties to see how they can be replaced, even if we are in a down role when it comes to resources and so on. So for me, the two European youth centers we have, they were created some 50 years ago, one of them, the other one 25 years ago. They are really where we foster this kind of participation and partnership, because we invite youth NGOs and they set the agenda. They decide what is the problem, because they are young a period of time and then they change and they come with the solutions. And then we have associated the two European youth centers to some youth centers in Europe, and we have actually one in Lisbon Youth Center, which is associated, it's a quality labeled youth center of the Council of Europe. And I think these kind of powerhouses or knowledge houses or support houses or youth places, they make a difference, because they also open up and developments go in new directions that were not planned. As you say, we can have different agendas. So somehow I want to keep the idea that we have to also put the money where we speak. So we cannot only morally say youth participation is important. We have to have the resources. The institutions have to come also to deliver. And it's a little bit what you said, Jonas, that the municipalities have to engage. So I think these spaces are really, really important. And then we can complement with other things.
Yeah, I was going to reflect on another thing you said, and you obviously made an impression. Because I think if this is a problem or the issue, there is definitely not one solution. There needs to be many different kinds of solutions. And just to make an example, you talked about these questionnaires or surveys to young people and the pros and the cons of all these kind of solutions. And to me, participation is basically setting the agenda and carrying it out together. That's for me is very much what it is about. And I mean, having been worked for a municipality for many years, doing questionnaires to young people, you very soon, if you're just a little bit smart, you realize that I don't know if I'm asking the right questions. I might ask the totally wrong questions, actually. So I mean, here you need a combination of, consultations, talking to people, what questions should we ask? Then you could ask a hell of a lot of people. And then you think you got the answer, but you haven't got the answer. You got some kind of informations that need to be interpreted together with young people once again. So I mean, we need to create processes where we mix different kinds of solutions, different kinds of approaches in order to answer at least to improve youth participation a little bit. That would be my general answer. We shouldn't try to find one solution. I was once chairing an expert group where Bruno was part of it, and in that report we wrote that if you don't need young people to do youth work, you're not doing youth work. And I think that's, to me, the essential thing of this. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Any other considerations? Laurence?
Yes, also about what you've said, Alan, about massive digital participation, I'm very curious. I'm very curious because I'm working in Belgium with with young people also with really less opportunities, and they are not confident at all on their capacity to think, to express something, and to be respected. I think it's really fundamental. And for this, I just want to say that youth work will be really crucial in this process. We really need to have a recognized and strong youth work all around Europe to support all young people in this process. So I'm not at all against digital participation. I'm just curious as a massive process, but I really think that support by youth work or other people is really needed.
Thank you, Simona.
Well, I'm also very curious about the digital area because I believe with that it can expand to all youngsters. And I think that is what I expect, and that is what I think would do a greater thing, because those 9% of youngsters that don't engage, it's because maybe they don't know about it. And like you said, maybe they don't have confidence on the capacity of thinking. Like, I also don't have that, and I'm 18. So that's really what I expect for it to develop to everyone to know about it, to everyone to be informed, and to everyone to have the capacity to participate. Because youngsters, us, we need to, the decision making, we need to have it in our hands because it applies to us and it applies to our community. So I think we need the power to it, and I think with the digital era, that is going to happen, and that is my expectation.
Thank you. Cristiana?
Like a plot twist previously, because as youth organizations or institutions in general, we put a lot of energy into these too much engaged young people or the already disengaged young people. And we tend to forget that the 80 or 90% is actually the target group in which we have to change the ways that we used to approach them or reach out to them. And the reason is that when we talk about youth participation, we have to also ask if it's impactful or if it's meaningful. And most of the times, it's not, let's be honest. But I would like also to say that we have to start from civic education as well, on the local level as well, on the national, on the European, then international. When you don't provide young people with the proper civil education, I think it's quite impossible later to have them engaged. And as you very well mentioned, it takes two to tango. If the one already is disengaged, then no engagement in the way. And here I would like also to mention something about organizations, youth organizations and civil society organizations. They need financial support. It is not a Robocop work, the work that they are doing. Youth work is a meaningful and impactful work, but it takes resources. And if they don't have the proper support, which is mainly human resources, and then leads to the financial resources, then it's quite difficult to keep doing the work that most of the times either the municipalities or the stakeholders should have been doing.
Very good point. Thank you very much, Cristiana. I'm also inviting the audience. If you have any comment or question, please think about it. And while you are thinking, my very last question to the panel would be, what kind of support are there for municipalities? They are probably not alone in this. You are also responsible for institutional support. You are working with municipalities in this way or another. They are not forgotten. Are there supports in place already, national level, European level?
So I will do my main job as director of a national agency. So there are possibilities to support financially this kind of projects through the Erasmus Plus Youth program, and especially with the Solidarity Project and Participation Project. Under the K Action 1. So, and 2, also, if you want to develop partnership, and especially the Action 2, strategic partnership to develop new tools or to exchange good practices between municipalities or other actors. So I did my job.
Thank you, Laurence.
Yeah, there is a lot of support, I think. There are projects, there is money, and so on and so on. We as an organization do some support for our members, and so that there are different things. The problem to me is that in order to take support, you must be motivated to take support. And this is where we need more support in order to motivate and make, you understand what I mean? To motivate and make clear, you need this. If you don't realize that you need these tools, you need its support. I mean, there are, just as there are these 5–10% of young people, I would guess that there are these 5–10% of municipalities also being the most active ones, the ones that realize that, oh, we want to be forward in this, we want to be ahead. And then you get 80–90%, perhaps less, that saying, okay, this might be an important issue, but I'm not really engaged to be married. And then we have some that don't care at all. So we need to work on the motivation factor. That's, to me, the most important thing, because if you want support, there is support, or you will ask for support, but still you need the motivation. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Cristiana.
Like, we are all sharing a bit our role, so I want to also mention about the initiative of the European Youth Capital, and I want to urge the municipalities to actually support young people in order to apply for this title. We have some very good examples also here in Portugal. Praga and Cascais have become champions of youth participation, if I might say. At the local level, because of the European Youth Capital, it allowed them to actually both attract young people, but also the stakeholders. So I urge you all to Google it, find more information, to reach out to me later if you want to discuss about it. And also, to support youth organizations. I will remain and highlight that. It's super important to support youth organizations and civil society organizations. They are doing an extremely job when it comes to youth participation, and they need to find a way to also showcase their good practices and tools to the municipalities, or even better, to create some synergies there in comparison. And European Youth Capital have managed in several cases to do so.
Thank you very much. Gordana?
Thank you. I think I will mention two things, how municipalities can tap into the work of the Council of Europe. Obviously, we have one branch of our organization is the Congress of Local and Regional Authorities. They are it's a forum, a democratic forum for representatives of regions and municipalities. So this is a way of engaging in learning more about democracy, human rights, and rule of law in the mission of the organization. But I think from the youth sector where I work, one of our duties that we do, we try to support member states in setting minimum standards in a certain field. So we have numerous recommendations and tools on youth participation in decision making and in general and so on, citizenship, education and so on. And because of this challenge that we are facing, and I think it's an add-on to what you said, Jonas, how can we support the municipalities so they do their part? We offer member states, when they see that they are in need, to organize 50-50 training courses. We bring municipal officials to the table together with youth representatives and youth organizations. And they work together around youth participation. So basically we do trainings, and we have seen it on numerous occasions that it increases definitely the plan and the understanding of what is youth participation. So you bring everyone to the table. This is one thing. So this is something we do continuously. So if some of you would be interested in your municipality to do this, we can talk after, and I can tell you how the procedure could be in that, and also Laurence, because she's the one deciding who can get this support actually, because she's in our steering committee for those decisions. And secondly, just to say, as I mentioned before, we are celebrating 50 years next year of the Council of Europe's youth sector. So we are going to launch a campaign, Revitalizing Democracy. We are preparing and planning right now. It's going to be launched in March next year. We're going to do many different events. And I hope all of you somehow tap into that process. I also know that EU has announced next year the European Year of Youth. So there are many things happening, but definitely our focus will be on revitalizing democracy in this campaign. So I hope you engage, and I hope we can count on you, because it will be many different initiatives, and maybe you can contribute to that campaign. More information will eventually follow.
Thank you, Gordana. Very important. Jonas?
May I just add to your presentation, Gordana? You're talking about the Congress of Local and Regional Authorities. And I want to inform you, because information is hard, that in February the Congress came with a resolution, a recommendation, and an explanatory memorandum with the title Youth Work and the Role of Local and Regional Authorities, where they actually talk quite a lot about the governance of youth work and the importance of youth participations. And this is a very good document to use in advocacy for youth participation and how youth work and this process should be run. So please take part of it. It's a useful document.
Thank you. Simona?
So the biggest example of youth participation in Portugal, I think it's the Parliament of Youngsters, which is done by IPDJ, which means Portuguese Institute of Sports and Youth. I know that happens in other countries, the Parliament of Youngsters. And the Parliament works by, it's not like parties and deputies, it's more schools and regions. And at the end, it's a competition. It passes by a lot of phases, and at the end, the solutions that are created by the youngsters are put in practice by the Parliament of Portugal. But what happens with this great, huge project that happens here is that it's kind of always the same youngsters that participate in it. And why does that happen? I think it happens because they don't know what it is used for. They think, okay, this happens. Some people practice it, but what are they doing with our information? So, and that also happens because we are a bit unmotivated, also in school. So when Cristiana mentioned the civil education, I was really, really happy because I wanted to mention it, and I think that's a really big part of all this. And but in Portimão, I think that the most impact about youth participation is really DePaul and the work that they do here about it. So, yeah.
Thank you very much. Important issue raised again. How to involve those young people who are not engaged and not empowered to engage. How do we empower municipalities to be able to do this? That's also, I think those municipalities who are here, they don't need this inspiration because it's already, we are convincing the convinced. Do you have any comment or question to the panel? We have maybe a little time for some interaction as well. Stephanie?
Well, talking about support, I think this partnership is one of the support that it was not mentioned, but I think it's important. The toolkit is a tool. It's one tool among many tools, but it's a tool that is gathering a lot of material and resources, and you will discover it a bit later. But this partnership is not only about the toolkit, it's also about putting you in contact together, networking, because you are the support to each other. You know your own reality. You are not youth workers, but you work with youth workers, or maybe not. So all this, the resource, you are your own resources as well. And this is also why the importance of the networking, we put a lot of study visits, of training activities to train also people to support you at local level. So each, in all the member states, part of this partnership, there are people inside that have been trained or will be trained also to support municipalities. National agencies are part of this process, though they also have been incorporated and trained also to support, to better understand you and create links to develop and increase or engage young people in different meanings and ways. So this is just what I wanted to say, because it's not only about funding, it's part of, but it's more than that.
Thank you very much, Stephanie. We are doing our job also. Any other comment or question? It was clear. I hope you are not so tired. I know it was 2 hours already listening to speeches. I would like to thank to the panelists. Thank you so much for taking this challenge.